Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast with Mike Tagliere, and I'm Bobby Sylvester. We're found on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. And today we're going to be talking Week 14 waiver wire pickups with our guest Brandon Marianne Lee, and she's on Twitter at Brandon her FFB. She does videos on Fantasy Alarm, and she's a writer for NFL, The Athletic, and Sportsline. Brandon, thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
My pleasure. I can't believe we're already at Week 14.
It's crazy. Yeah, Tags, how you doing today, man?
Oh, good, dude. Yeah. The season has kind of flown by to this point, but now with all these injuries starting to pile up, I think I'm going stir crazy and I'm losing my friggin' mind. But it's pretty fun to have Brandon on the podcast. Brandon and I are old pals. I had Michael Moore on the show with me last night. We did a recap, but before the show we were talking, and Brandon, you had a little rant about something that people need to talk to their commissioners about. So you want to share that opinion on air, because I thought it was awesome and something that everyone should hear.
Yeah, it's so funny because I also do radio for SiriusXM, and we're going to be doing this segment called "I'm Not a Sore Loser, But." And it got me. And so you can tune in from 10 to midnight Eastern tomorrow night and hear that full segment in full. But one of the things that drove me crazy this season, in particular, you were talking about the injuries piling up and everything kind of getting crazy. I have decided that if you are a waiver wire only league where you do not allow pickups through Sunday morning, I'm not going to play anymore.
Who does that?
I think it's a rollover from baseball. A lot of baseball leagues do that, right? Where there's just one waiver period, you do it because baseball, you have numerous games in the week, and that makes sense. You make these decisions, and it's a long game, right? But when you're looking at 16-week season, where at the most a fantasy player is going to play 15 games, okay? Every week is 1/15 of that player's entire season. So if they're out or if something happens, it's not like I get to just hold on to it. And I can't really make it up. And, as in like throughout the season, be able to make up that loss or make up that bad decision or whatever it may be. Now, it's one thing to make a bad decision, but if I don't have an option to make a decision because these injuries are coming in late and quick and I have to do something, that happened to me numerous times this year. Or it was like one of those things where if I went in on Saturday and I put in waivers for 3 guys and then I didn't get it, and then on Sunday I couldn't pick up someone in between, it's just outrageous. So I've decided that's one of the leagues I am completely out on next season. So talk to your commissioners now. If you have crazy rules like that, just get it done now.
Tags, what's one thing you would change next year? You would bring up to the commish?
I want to add on to that one, though. I also think that you should be able to pick up players until their game kicks off. So in all my leagues that I set up, I set it up to where players lock at their kickoff. So if a team hasn't played, like let's say that you had Sammy Watkins or whatever, and he played Sunday night, and all of a sudden they announced him as inactive, you could go to the waiver wire and grab someone as part of that game or Monday night's game and add them to your lineup to kind of replace them. I don't like leagues that lock things right there. I just don't at all. So I am definitely with Brandon on that. But for me, it's just all about making it more skillful and adding more flex positions. So this is the point in the off season where you guys are going to talk about your rules for next year and this and that. You may not want to take away kicker. You may not want to take away defense. I don't care, but you should add more flex spots. The more players you can start, the less likely that you're going to lose to luck, the more likely that you're going to win over the long run. It's not to say it's a guarantee, but it definitely helps when there's depth in a starting lineup. And it's just like, just because someone has the first pick and they get Todd Gurley, it doesn't automatically mean they're going to win their fantasy matchup.
Be careful what you wish for, though, because I made this request in my league and they changed it. And this week, some goon started Zay Jones, Austin Hooper, and Tariq Cohen against me and destroyed me.
That's awesome.
It's not awesome. It's horrible.
Oh, that's fantasy football for you, man. That is straight up fantasy football. That's going to happen from time to time. I mean, if someone's starting Zay Jones, they're probably not in the playoffs. I'm just going to say that.
They're the number 1 seed. What were they doing, dude?
That's a good question. But Bobby, I thought you were the number 1 seed in all your leagues.
I won the league by 250 fantasy points, but I missed the playoffs. I'm so mad at fantasy football right now. I feel like every single league I played in, Tariq Cohen was on the other team. And I'm watching that game and yeah.
I would actually wonder if that is true, because I feel like the leagues where I have the most flex positions, I have the most, like, if I miss the playoffs in those leagues, I had like the most points in the league. So I don't know if that is true.
I feel
like
fantasy
actually
football just hates us, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, that's very big part of it. But sometimes when you have, I think it's interesting. I actually say play in as many different kinds of leagues as you can, because one of the hardest leagues I'm in is an 8-man league, and I'll tell you why. Because it's more like DFS than anything else, because everyone has a good team. So you actually make more. It's a different mindset. So you're thinking things like, do I start Stephon Diggs or Mike Evans or something? It's like crazy questions, but it really makes you think about these top tier guys that instead of they're just automatically being starters, you have to make decisions like, Adam Thielen or Mike Evans. What did I want to do with this guy? And that's actually an interesting way too. So I like to play in varieties of leagues, like leagues that do have defense and kickers, that don't have defense and kickers, that have IDP, that don't have IDP, whatever.
2 QBs, yeah.
Yeah, because then each league is like a precious little child, a little baby. They're all different and unique. But it's interesting. It's funny because some of the teams that I thought were trash, I'm like the number 2 seed. And then the teams that I was like ballin', I just missed the playoffs, but I have like the most points in the league. It was a frustrating year. I don't know about everyone else, but it was for me. So
you know what's really frustrating is I'm looking at the tight end leaders from this past week. You got, oh man, Jared Cook's number 2, that's fine. Austin Hooper number 3, that's fine. And then we get the backup tight end for the Chiefs, backup tight end for the Texans, backup tight end for the Lions, George Kittle, backup tight end for the Bears, third string tight end for the Raiders, Eric Ebron, Jimmy Graham, Mark Andrews, the backup tight end for Baltimore, the backup tight end for Carolina, the backup tight end for the Giants. Get rid of tight ends. This is stupid.
Do you know, I actually did research in the offseason. Tight ends are less predictive unless of the top 3 than kickers. And there's no debate about it.
Yeah.
It is less predictive, and it makes no sense as to why people complain so much about kickers and not tight ends. Because in terms of streaming, it's actually the most difficult position to stream, and we tell everyone to do it. I don't know if that's true.
Bobby, 3 of the top 6 wide receivers this week were Dante Pettis, Zay Jones, and Jerron Brown. So I just think we have to chalk this one up as a bad week. But tight ends are always unpredictable.
No, look at every single week at tight end, dude. It's the worst.
It creates a unique strategy, though, to where it's like, those people that want to draft tight ends at the top of the draft. Like,
I'm drafting Travis Kelce first overall next year.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's funny, man. Fantasy football is...
It's something. It's why we love it.
Yeah. If I could change one thing, and this is something you guys have probably never heard of, but I absolutely love the idea. It comes from Bill Simmons' Big Book of Basketball. I think that's what it was called. So he has this idea called the Entertaining as Hell tournament, where at the end of the regular season, every team that misses the playoffs gets a one-and-done tournament, and whoever wins that tournament, even if it's the worst team in the NBA, makes it into the playoffs because it's just super entertaining. Everyone has a chance. I like applying that to fantasy football, and I did that in one league this year, and it changed the whole ball game. So in Week 13, every team who misses the playoffs, whichever one has the best Week 13 score makes it to the fantasy playoffs. And so all these teams are trading for Week 13 matchups and everything.
Oh,
it was beautiful. It was so fun.
That's nuts. That's nuts. I wish I had time to do more leagues like that. I really do. But man, 17 leagues. When Tuesday night comes and it's like waiver wire night, my wife hates me.
Yeah, it's like homework, man.
Like legit. She's like, you gonna get off your phone? Cause like I get upstairs from working for like 14 hours and it's like at night. And then I'm like, then I have to go and do all my waivers. And yeah, it's something, man. But I wish I had time to do stuff like that. If you do, I highly recommend it.
All right, guys, so we have a cool show planned for you today. Obviously, we're going to get into the waiver wire, and it's not a great waiver wire week. It still can help you win your playoff matchups, though, so we'll do that. At the end, we've got one question from the listener mailbag, and this one I'm going to tell you straight up front. He says, for Dynasty players who are out of playoff contention, who are some low-stock wide receivers and running backs you'd recommend buying, who you could see becoming major fantasy contributors next season? So we will get to that. If you're in a Dynasty league, stick around even past, the streaming quarterbacks and what have you that we'll talk about at the end of the show. So we're going to be answering that later. Before we get into the top running back pickups, though, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's show, PristineAuction.com. You probably heard us talking about this, and Tags and I love this site. I look at it every day to see if there's a great value for something from my man cave that I just love. There's something for everybody. Great prices, too. Like, I saw a Rudy signed Notre Dame Fighting Irish jersey that went for just $49. And when I say 49, I don't mean 49 and then fees. I mean, you bid 49, you pay 49. I also saw a signed Devin Hester helmet, $86. There's great values on there every single day. Check out what they have for you. Everything's guaranteed authentic from the most trusted sources. Again, that's PristineAuction.com, PRISTINE. All right, so waiver wire pickups. Brandon, we'll let you go first. Players who were owned in less than 50% of leagues. Do you have a favorite running back that you like? There's a few options here.
I don't really like a whole lot of these, but because the thing is that it looks like actually James Conner is probably going to maybe even play next week. They said it's not a major injury, and it didn't really look like it to me either. It looked more ankle than leg, even though they said it was a leg contusion. It looks like it might be an ankle. We're getting more into that. Again, this is an early week show, right? So this game just happened last night, so I don't want to act like we know for sure. But definitely, if you have Conner and you don't have Jalen Samuels, you guys, you should have 2 to 3 weeks ago picked up your handcuff. This is like the Spencer Ware conversation that we've had, the Austin Eckler. Like, if you didn't already have a handcuff to your dude, you kind of missed out. But Jalen Samuels is one of the few ones that are still out there. Whoever is the running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers is always someone that you want in fantasy, regardless of who it is. We all know that. So,
well, hold on. Let me ask you a question, because a lot of people on Twitter were saying, hey, if you say running back doesn't matter, then you're stupid because Spencer Ware sucked yesterday. What do you say to that, Brandon?
Yeah, well, I mean, he sucked and still got a touchdown.
Yeah, he only rushed the ball 11 times. Like, the argument was volume. We thought he was going to get a ton of volume. He would have been great. He didn't get a ton of volume. Sorry.
Well, and because their defense imploded. It became a game. Did you think Oakland was going to score 33 points? I certainly didn't.
I don't know. I didn't, but there's a possibility against the Chiefs. But with Jalen Samuels, we know what the Steelers do. They give a guy 20 touches every game. Andy Reid likes to use the backfield split. We should have known. We really should have known better. I didn't. I'm sorry, I give bad advice there. He still had a decent game, but he wasn't as good as I expected. Jalen Samuels, though, he would be a rock.
Do not apologize for Spencer Ware. I think that, Spencer Ware was peak Twitter complaining.
I do need to apologize. I had him RB1 this week.
Okay, well, I didn't do that. That's crazy. I mean, Todd Gurley's alive. He never gets to be RB1.
It was the Oakland Raiders, and Todd Gurley's going up against Snacks Harrison.
Todd Gurley is another life, another world.
I know. It was stupid. I have no excuses. It was stupid. Let's move on.
Okay. Well, anyway, I would say, though, that Jalen Samuels, though, regardless of whether Conner plays or not, which it is possible, you need to get him.
Yeah.
Just, it's ridiculous. Get him on your... I mean, the reason why a lot of people didn't get Jalen Samuels and why he's out there in so many leagues right now is because we were all thinking that Le'Veon Bell would come back and that Conner would be the handcuff, right? So it was kind of like, do you handcuff the handcuff? So that was the debate up until a couple weeks ago, right? You wouldn't do that. But now, there's no excuse. Got to go get him.
Tags, I like Jalen Samuels. He's not my number one running back, though. My number one running back is Justin Jackson. It was like my proud dad moment yesterday when he broke out. I was really nervous the whole game because I was like, you can start Justin Jackson this week. He's going to be the dude. Eventually, the Chargers are going to realize it. He's going to get in the end zone. He's the man. You watch him play. The kid is really good, and I think moving forward, week 14 against Cincinnati, he might be a top 20 running back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I want to go top 20, but because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the Chargers implement him in like that first and second down role with Eckler and a change of pace. But I mean, we could be heading towards that direction. I think, with the win that they had last night over the Steelers, I think it allows them to be a little bit more cautious with Melvin Gordon. This week, I don't think he's expected to play, but they were hoping to have him back for week 15, which by the way is a Thursday night game. So it's going to be on shorter rest. So I could see that being the case. So you might have Justin Jackson for just 1 week, which is a little disappointing. That's why for me, I'm going to go with Jalen Samuels as my number one. I'm saying that because I don't think that James Conner is going to miss time from what we're hearing. But if he were to miss time, this is the best handcuff out there outside of the guys that are already owned or should be owned in Malcolm Brown. Spencer Ware was one of those guys. And by the way, Bobby, I'm going to say this. I want to talk about Spencer Ware just for a second, just because I had him ranked as my number 7 running back, and I had a lot of people telling me, you're going to play him over Eckler, you're going to play him over David Johnson. Like, there was a lot of guys that disappointed yesterday, so it's not just Spencer Ware. He finished as the number 16 running back in standard formats. It wasn't as good as game as we hoped, but it's not like he lost the game for you. Let's just be real about that. He didn't win you a DFS tournament is what it comes down to. But if you have him on your waiver wire, like, he's still a guy that obviously is there. They're rumored, by the way, we should talk about this news too. It was rumored last night that the Chiefs are bringing in CJ Anderson and Charkandrick West for visits today, and that if CJ Anderson does pass that physical, they're expected to sign him. So if he comes in, it's going to change everything. And it's like, CJ Anderson's a solid football player. I know Carolina didn't use him at all, but he's a solid football player. He ran for 1,000 yards behind that Denver offensive line last year. So it's something to watch. So the running back position is just so muddy. You definitely want to take your chance on someone like Jalen Samuels, who would walk into a one-back system. And on top of that, Bobby, we didn't talk about this. Jalen Samuels has multi-position eligibility.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about that. He's number 1. He's the best pickup.
Yes, you put him in your tight end spot and you're getting running back production. So he's just like he's somebody that you can kind of, I mean, if James Conner is even limited in some fashion, they might say we're going to ride Samuels a little bit more. You could arguably put him in your tight end.
Real talk. If James Conner's out, is Jalen Samuels the tight end 1 next week?
Not over Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz. No.
I wouldn't do that, but he would definitely be in the top 6.
Well, hold on a second. You'd have him as an RB1, you said, Brandon, right?
No, I mean, well, no, I have him as my number 1 pickup on waivers because you should be handcuffing Connor. I'm not even quite sure I'm not even quite sure Connor's not going to play. So I that's why I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
I'm saying if Connor's out, I think Samuels would be projected for 15 points. Travis Kelce's not projected for 15 points.
I'd project him 15 points.
Yeah, I always project Travis Kelce.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing Baltimore. Yeah. Baltimore actually isn't very good against tight ends.
I'm looking at Yahoo projections right now, and Travis Kelce was 13.5 against Oakland. I don't think that he would be more than that in any other matchup. So
I'm just saying my personal projection, I would 100% play Travis Kelce over Samuels.
Yeah, and Zach Ertz. To me, Zach Ertz is the same deal. But
yeah, those two are both awesome. Are you taking them in the first round next year, Brandon? Ertz and Kelce?
No, I'm not taking them in the first round. And I don't think you'll have to. I think ADP is going to be pretty much the same. I mean, I know we're all going to react to this tight end disaster, but to be honest with you, the tight end position's been like this for 3 years. I don't know why people acted like this wasn't a thing. The majority of fantasy points have been scored by 3 dudes. Okay, it's been Travis Kelce, and then at the time it was Jimmy Graham and Gronk.
And anytime Hunter Henry plays, he's right there. In fact, he's been the most efficient of all 4 of those guys. So that's who I'm drafting.
My point is, this is how it's always been. It's just time for you to figure out how you incorporate that into your leagues. If you want to continue with a tight end spot, cool. Then yes, those guys are more valuable if you have to play a tight end, because at this point, streaming is a disaster. It's really difficult. And it's the opposite of the quarterback position, right? Because in week 13, there were 16 quarterbacks that scored over 20 fantasy points. And that was when Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff were on bye and Mitchell Trubisky was sitting out. You can't get a leverage. There's no leverage at the quarterback position, and streaming is easy. Tight end, the exact opposite. There's major leverage with those top dudes, and streaming is very difficult. Those are 2 completely different positions from a fantasy perspective.
So I'm assuming you have Justin Jackson as your number 2 behind Samuels. Who's your number 3, Brandon?
Justin Jackson should be the dude. But Austin Eckler's been very productive all season, so I'm not going to be like all in on Jackson as much as other people. I know he did well in the second half, but I know he didn't do the touchdowns this week, but I think that you can stream LeGarrette Blount against Arizona next week. I'm sorry. Like, if Kerryon Johnson's still out, which it looks very likely, Arizona's an easy pickings there. They love to give him the ball at the goal line. We didn't think he'd have a big game this week because of the competition, but certainly, I guess, against Arizona, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, he was fine. He's going to be good this week, and if he plays next week, he's going to be good then. Tags, you have to have Blount number 3, right?
Oh, yeah. I had Blount in my weekend waiver wire stash article where I talked about this matchup coming up. The Cardinals have now allowed 15 rushing touchdowns on the year. That's the most in the NFL. They've also played against the most carries in the NFL, and it's not even that close. They've faced over 28 carries per game. So even if Kerryon Johnson were to return, I think LeGarrette Blount, this game would be close enough where Blount would see at least 12 carries. So he's definitely streaming viable. And honestly, the Lions have no reason to bring Kerryon Johnson back off this MCL sprain to rush him back. I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of went the Marvin Jones route, where Marvin Jones missed a couple weeks and then they put him on IR. We might see the same thing with Kerryon Johnson. There's no reason playing on the hard turf in Arizona. So I think LeGarrette Blount is a solid streamer. And if you legitimately need someone for this week, like let's say that you're in a bad spot and you need a running back, I would pick up Blount over those other 2 guys, over Samuels, over Justin Jackson, because I know his role would be a bit more guaranteed.
I don't know, man. Like, okay, if we find out Connor is out for the week today, you would still pick up Blount over Samuels?
No. I mean, they're going against Oakland, so it's a really good matchup for him. But from what we hear about Connor, it's that they're not expecting him to miss time. And that's what I'm kind of going off of. But LeGarrette Blount is just a safer play. We're going to know more by Tuesday night when you have to go and submit your waiver claims. So as of now, assuming that James Conner is going to play, and if you need someone for this week, I think Blount is a better play than Justin Jackson.
So I've got Blount number 3 as well. I think he's a very good pickup for this weekend, probably next week as well. I wouldn't play him in the championship game unless you're desperate, but if you're in the championship game, you're probably not desperate. Now, there's a couple other guys who I think are decent pickups out here. We got Rex Burkhead, Jeffrey Wilson. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about him. Nyheim Hines, Rashad Penny with Chris Carson banged up. Giovanni Bernard is a great handcuff. Theo Riddick's involved in the passing game. Tex, who do you have number 4?
So number 4, I have Rashad Penny. Because like he's only 25.8% owned in leagues right now. And, Chris Carson apparently broke a finger this past week and they're expecting him to play through it like he typically does. But Rashad Penny, as the year's gone on, they've given him a bigger and bigger role. It's a team that runs the ball 31.7 times per game. They get a lot of rushing attempts out there. So Rashad Penny is interesting to me as number 4. Like he's someone that if Chris Carson were to miss time, I think Penny would like turn into like I want to say like a low end RB2 because he's not involved in the passing game. He's not doing anything there, but he's someone that becomes interesting, like in terms of like a play because they're playing Minnesota this week, tough matchup. But then after that, it's at San Francisco and then against Kansas City. So it's more like having him down the stretch run. I like him there. Theo Riddick is in that conversation as a high floor option. Burkhead, as you mentioned, but Jeffrey Wilson is the one I think people are going to be listening in and thinking, what do I do about this guy? And I don't know. That's the best answer I can give is that Matt Breida has been on and off the field all year. He's been dealing with an ankle injury. Moore talked about it on the show last night that he injured his ankle in warmups, in pregame warmups. He dinged it or whatever, and that's why he was limited throughout the game. We've seen this before with Burkhead. Everybody goes and picks up Raheem Mostert or Alfred Morris and expects them to kind of take the role, and then we get Shanahan. And, he plays someone else. So Wilson was involved in the passing game. I think he saw 9 targets, which tied a team high. So there's definite appeal here, but I don't think I could trust him unless I know that Matt Breida is out.
And he goes up against Denver, who's been killing people in the running game, and then Seattle, Chicago the next 2 weeks. I don't see much appeal here. I'd rather go with the upside with Rashad Penny or the floor with Theo Riddick. So I've got Wilson as my number 6 guy. Brandon, where do you have Wilson?
I have him as number 6. I don't like the schedule. Denver, Seattle, Chicago, Rams. The rest of the season is not good. So I just, it's a little dire for everyone in San Francisco, to be entirely frank. They got a Nick Mullins problem. They've got Matt Breida going in and out of injury all season. By the way, when Matt Breida is healthy, he's one of the best in the league. That's what the most frustrating thing is, right? I mean, he was third in terms of yards per carry going into this week. He actually had the fastest time, according to Next Gen Stats, on field of the season. I mean, it's nuts. You just look at it and you go, what? Matt Breida? So the problem is that if he is out there, he's going to be sniping. And he also had 3 catches this week for 51 yards. So it's not like he wasn't involved at all. So I am fascinated in terms of putting him on there to do it. And this is a strategy thing too. Pick up people who are relevant today, even if you don't need them, but you have space. So for instance, I was in a league where the number 1 seed had Alex Collins still on his bench, who's obviously on IR. Pay attention. Yeah, he didn't need Alex Collins, but take away these guys from other people. So I'm not saying Jeffrey Wilson's the one that I want here, but I mean, all these guys that we're talking about, though, just in general, keep your bench fresh, no matter how great your starters are, no matter how much you just flew into the playoffs. I think people get a little lazy if they had a really good team, especially this year because it was so weird. Make sure that your bench is relevant. And to me, that's just not Wilson. I'm glad also, can we just stop talking about Kenneth Dixon forever? When do we stop the conversation? I'm glad that we haven't gone there yet, but no! Why? Why do we have to do this? Rashad Penny is probably my biggest miss of the preseason because I really believed in his talent coming out of San Diego State. I thought he was really great. I thought he was going to be awesome. He is a little big. He's playing a little big. There's no doubt about that. You can see that when he's running around. But he's really good when given the chance. And if Chris Carson has, any broken finger, that's not good. And they have to run the ball. And by the way, the only reason we aren't talking about how great Russell Wilson is again this season is because there's so many great players. But I just want to give a shout out to Russell Wilson again. You guys, beautiful football is being played by the Seattle Seahawks right now. Beautiful.
No, he's ridiculously efficient.
He's really annoying. He's getting 13 pass attempts a game for 12 touchdowns.
And you know what? I've been invested in Tyler Lockett all season, and it's the happiest thing I've ever done. Everyone's like, Tyler Lockett hates math. I hate, what is it? Tyler Lockett's going to fall. I was like, no, that's how Russell Wilson plays football. It actually has nothing even to do with Tyler Lockett. Russell Wilson's efficiency is something he has done consistently through his career. We have years of evidence, so it's a very different way of play, and it doesn't necessarily match up with everyone else, but that's how he is. He always throws more touchdowns than he should, way more productive on the very few pass attempts that he takes, but that's how he plays football, and it's been years of evidence. So use that, you guys. Use the years of evidence and believe it.
So there's been 2 games this year where Kenneth Dixon has played football. And in those games, he has more broken tackles than Buck Allen does all season on the ground. I am going to go on a limb here, and I know you guys are probably going to disagree with me after hearing the comments you guys just said, but I think Kenneth Dixon is one of the guys that I would stash on a bench. I don't think that he's playable right now, but I do think that with Lamar Jackson under center, and if something happens to Gus Edwards, who, by the way, missed time this past week in practice with an ankle injury, he offers nothing in the passing game, like legit nothing. He hasn't caught a single pass, isn't targeted. If he goes down, there is no one else in this roster that carries that football, and they're running the ball. I think they ran it 48 times last week against the Falcons. Like, ever since Lamar Jackson took over, they're running the ball 35 plus times every single week. So Kenneth Dixon would be a fantastic bench stash for me. And I'm not saying that
he's talented too. I think so, at least.
I believe that he's a tackle breaking machine. Is he very elusive in terms of, like, can he evade tacklers? Maybe not, but I think he's a solid running back. I don't think he's like elite, but I think he is solid enough where if something did happen to Gus Edwards, and it kind of already did a little bit, I think Kenneth Dixon could be a potential league winner.
Would you rather have Kenneth Dixon than Gio Bernard?
Yes, 100%.
More than what? Really? I think he's a better handcuff than.
I just think that the team runs because Gio Bernard's in a really bad spot. That team, they can't even use Joe Mixon properly. I don't have any faith that they'd be able to use Giovanni Bernard.
By the way, just to update everyone on the bet, Tags, if you want to win this bet, if Christian McCaffrey continues at his pace over the final 4 weeks,
shut up.
You need 46 points per game from Joe Mixon to catch me.
I conceded like literally a couple weeks ago. Like, I was like, this done. Like, McCaffrey's just kind of going off. So I've lost that bet. I'm going to be eating buttered pizza, which is disgusting. I don't know, but I'm just saying that I think that he's worth a bench stash is all I'm saying. Kenneth Dixon, he's one of those guys that it's like a high upside stash on a team that's running the ball a ton. And with Lamar Jackson under center, you're going to see more success for that run game.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Anyone else at the running back position you guys want to talk about? A lot of people are asking about Damian Williams, Rex Burkhead.
Hold on, real quick. Let's pretend this. Instead of those guys, let's talk about this. If CJ Anderson signs later today with the Kansas City Chiefs, is he worth a pickup?
No. A lot of people are asking that, but why would he be? It's not like he's going to start, is he?
Why would they sign him? I mean, he's a body. He's got fresh legs. Brandon, what's your take on this one?
I'll tell you one thing. He would be my biggest dart throw in DFS. If I don't think he'll be on, he's not available in this week's slate, but the next week's slate. I don't think he'd be efficient this week, but maybe next week. He's just too new to the team. And yeah, they might do a share. They might not. But, you know, he's a very specific running back in terms of being like a bruiser type. And that's pretty much it. He's not versatile like Kareem Hunt at all. So it's, I don't know if he'd be an every down guy.
Like, you're still going to see Damian Williams.
Yeah.
Wait, why would Spencer Ware not start? He played 14 games a couple years ago. And if you prorate his stats there, keep in mind he was injured most of the season. If you prorate his stats to 16 games, 1,555 yards from scrimmage. He's a great running back.
He was also very bad against Oakland, and I wonder if that like is weighing into this because the news came out right after the game. So it's like all of a sudden, like, why are they interested in running backs when they weren't before? He had a terrible game against Oakland. Like, the thing is, I mean, I was all for Spencer Ware, but that was just the third time this year where Oakland has held a team of running backs under 110 yards. That's it. The third time. So they were terrible.
It's actually not like his first relevant game because he actually had some flex appeal a little bit in the middle of the season. So they were using him here or there, but that was his first game as like kind of the guy that they were going to rely upon. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's coaching here too. I don't know if you throw the baby out with the bathwater after one game, considering, again, their major problem was their defense. Their defense allowed so many points. It was irrational. The fact that they even let Oakland back, like, in the game that entire time is embarrassing.
Oakland went like a month without scoring a touchdown, and they put up 30 points against the Chiefs.
Exactly. So to me, if I'm a coach with Kansas City, I'm like, yes, Spencer Ware is not my problem. It's definitely my defense. So I don't know. I felt like it was just pedestrian. But again, like you said, a lot of people were pedestrian last week. So maybe I'm just not freaking out as much as other people. But would I be surprised if he puts up over 20 fantasy points next week? No.
Against Baltimore, I'd be surprised because nobody, I mean, the whole team's not putting up 20 fantasy points combined probably. They killed the Falcons. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game next week for sure. Kansas City against Baltimore. That defense has been so good.
I think Baltimore's going to win it, man.
I don't know. It's in Kansas City. I'll take Kansas City in that one, but I think it could be a lower scoring game. The over under is 52.5, so it's high, but I'd side with the under in that one.
I'll tell you, you do not want to run up against the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL playoffs.
No, I mean, you have to catch on to what they're doing on offense. That's basically what it comes down to.
Okay, guys, let's move on over to wide receivers. Tags, we'll let you go first this time. Who's your top pickup? Is it Adam Humphries?
As always.
You're like the Adam Humphries guy now, which is so funny.
It is so weird. I mean, like, the thing is like to find wide receivers who are seeing the targets he's getting with Deshaun Jackson nicked up, with OJ Howard out of the lineup, with no run game, with a bad defense. Like, there's just so many reasons to like Adam Humphries, and Jameis Winston, with the way he's been playing as of late, a bit more conservative, not taking as many chances. Adam Humphries makes all the sense in the world, and he's been producing. Like, I can't wait until this week is over so I could throw up a new stat, because he might actually be like a top 10 wide receiver ever since week 6 in PPR formats after this week's performance. So another player that we should talk about is Curtis Samuel, because we talked about Humphries last week and there's a lot of reasons to like him, but Curtis Samuel, even though Devin Funchess came back, he only played 32 of 70 snaps. Granted, he was on a snap count, they said. He is going to be involved in the red zone, but Curtis Samuel, a career high and season high, 11 targets last game. So, Brandon, what do we do here with Curtis Samuel? Like, so, do we trust him in fantasy lineups going into the fantasy playoffs here with Devin Funchess being eased back into the offense? Cam Newton's shoulder, I don't know what's going on with that, because he was pulled from the game to throw a Hail Mary, and it wasn't just the Hail Mary. The passes leading up to that, he was just lacking any strength on the deep ball. So, how do you feel about Curtis Samuel, Adam Humphries? Are these your top two wide receivers?
For sure, Adam Humphries. I think my number 2 is DeVante Pettis. So
not Zay Jones? I mean, I know it's funny, but Zay Jones has been really involved.
Listen, Josh Allen is a must-add in 2 quarterback leagues, or what? I mean, and also if you play in that, Josh Allen, for whatever reason, they play for him. His accuracy kills me personally. I'm an accuracy snob, so like I kind of die inside when I watch him play football. But in terms of what he does to the team, they're much more productive. I'm okay with Zay Jones. My problem with Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, Devin Funchess, you name it, anyone not named Christian McCaffrey on the Carolina Panthers, is that they kind of make each other not trustworthy. And that upsets me. And we're going into the playoffs. We're talking about we want guaranteed touches. We want guaranteed targets. This is what we're really looking at. And to me, Adam Humphries is guaranteed. I can't even believe the guy's still out there. I think it's embarrassing. I'm with you. I've been preaching this for I think since week 6, you said, right? I immediately was like, this is real. And then when OJ Howard went out, I said, listen, they're going to use Cameron Brate. But a lot of those targets are also going to go to Adam Humphries. And certainly they did. I don't know how the guy is still out there. It drives me a little crazy. But so to me, it's Adam Humphries, and then it's DeVante Pettis, and then it's Curtis Samuel, just because it feels like each week it's going to be a Samuel week or a Moore week or a Funchess week. When Funchess got that one catch, right, for a touchdown, I was like, dang it, it's everybody, So that's, for me, what I would trust the most.
I'm looking at Adam Humphries right now, Tags. You said since week 6. He's the fantasy receiver number 11 in that time over Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs. I mean, I mentioned it last week. It's just kind of like Robert Woods last year, where we keep scratching our head and saying, this doesn't make sense. How's this happening? Oh, wait, he's actually good. That's what it comes down to.
And I'll say this. Bruce Ellington is your cheap PPR guy, too. The guy's he had 10 targets this week.
Yeah.
10. And he's had 6 or more catches in every single game in the last 3 weeks. That's insane.
Tags, I'm looking at wide receivers 2 through 8 on the waiver wire this week, and they're all super close. Who was your number 2?
I had Curtis Samuel at number 2, just because he presents the most. I don't want to say. I should say the most upside of them. DeVante Pettis is very, very, very close to that upside, but we don't know if Marquise Goodwin's going to come back with the team. He was away for personal reasons. It wasn't even an injury. Pierre Garçon has been close to returning to the team, and DeVante Pettis wasn't involved before that. So I don't know. It's tough. I like Pettis as a player. I just don't know if I like the situation. I don't know if I want to trust these guys going into the fantasy playoffs. Putting him in your lineup. So I think Samuel at least offers a guy that, just coming off an 11 target game, he's the guy who could do a lot with the ball in his hands. So he's the one who presents the most upside, and that's why I choose him. But breaking news, the Chiefs are now expected to sign running back Charcandrick West, who is very familiar with the playbook and who will fit right in, and that CJ Anderson did have a really good workout and is ready if they need him. So I'm thinking this is more of like, if Spencer Ware gets injured, they're going to sign CJ Anderson, but Charcandrick West is going to sign with the team. So what does that do? Because Charcandrick West is also someone who has experience kind of carrying the team in terms of a 3-down role. He struggled last year, and that's why they let go of him. But is he someone that we should talk about?
He's not playing over Spencer Ware. I'm not picking him up.
No, he's not. Yeah, and we've seen this before. If anything, this actually cuts into Damian Williams than it does Spencer Ware because he's more involved in the passing game and not the running game. So if anything, this actually made me more confident in Spencer Ware today. Because had they picked C.J. Anderson, that would say, whoops, Spencer Ware.
It's a similar running back, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if something happened or, they might be taking some coaching responsibility for what happened. It was the first week of him being the dude, so I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He's still on, depending on the week, the number 1 through 3 offense in the National Football League. He's going to score points. He's going to have goal line work. I mean, you could do a lot worse, people. I know there's a lot of complaining going on, but again, he was still an RB2 in all settings.
So, Tags, I've got Curtis Samuel number 2 as well. The rest of my top 5, Michael Gallup is number 3. He had a pretty good game. I think he's got some upside there. I don't want to start him. If I'm looking for a streamer, I'm not going with Michael Gallup, but somebody I think could help you in the next 2 weeks, depending on what he does the following week. Zay Jones is my number 4. Josh Doxson, number 5, and that could change depending on what happens tonight. We're recording this here. It's Monday right around lunchtime, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but Colt McCoy's been loving Josh Doxson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doxson's number 4 on my list. I like him. Definitely like him.
Brandon, who else do you have in your top 5?
No, I agree with you with the Michael Gallup call there. Michael Gallup was one of my favorites going into the season. They completely misused him until they got Amari Cooper. And they just did not trust him enough with snaps. They didn't keep him out there. And it's weird that they got Amari Cooper and then Michael Gallup started getting more playing time. It was the opposite of what you thought would happen. So they really didn't commit to him being one of their starting guys until they got Cooper. A very weird turn of events there. Later in the show, we are going to talk about Dynasty. He is my pick of getting in a Dynasty League ASAP. If you can. A lot of people will kind of downgrade him because Amari Cooper's there, but if you look at the stats, it's actually the opposite that happened. So I agree with you on that. I wonder if Kenny Stills and Ryan Tannehill will start connecting more. Stills started the season well. So did, and so did Tannehill. They obviously were playing, American teams, but when Tannehill got hurt, it was all over for Stills, and it was a disaster. I wonder if he's going to have some big bounce back games in the possibility here. Maybe also that's a little more of a dynasty play, but he is someone that I would want on my roster. Zay Jones, and then, as I said, Bruce Ellington to me is just, if you're in a full point PPR, he has a super high floor right now. I mean, he is the number 2 wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, and they are targeting him like crazy. Any wide receivers getting double-digit targets should be on a roster in every league.
Yeah, I like Bruce Ellington as well. Antonio Callaway's on my radar. Rashad Higgins. I don't know which one I like better. I think Higgins is the better football player. I think Callaway's going to keep getting the targets, though. Tags, what do you think?
Yeah, I have Callaway higher. He's playing more snaps than Higgins is, and Callaway's been playing better as of late. He should have actually had a touchdown, but he just ran out of gas, and then he fumbled on the goal line.
That is such an Antonio Callaway thing to do.
It was just dropping the football again. But no, he's picked up his play. I don't want to be too hard on the guy. Michael Gallup. So Gallup actually, he moved into a full-time role in week 6. So he played 2 weeks, basically in that full-time role before Amari got there, but you're seeing the effect of Amari on the offense. You're seeing Gallup, face number 2 cornerbacks. Like, that's the thing. That's what Amari does. And I think that's why the Cowboys brought him in. And I'm obviously on board with that move, but Michael Gallup's a phenomenal talent. I like him. I just don't know if there's enough room for 2 wide receivers in this offense, but I will say that their schedule is friggin' awesome. Like, you can't ask for a better schedule than the Cowboys have for the remainder of the season. So Gallup is an interesting pickup for sure. What do you guys think about DeVante Parker? I mean, I have moved on, and then he goes and scores a touchdown, and Ryan Tannehill has always liked DeVante Parker. He's always played well with him.
You know me, man. I played him in cash games last week in DFS. I'm just kidding. I definitely did not do that. But, there's some upside here. He had 11 targets against Green Bay in Week 10, 9 against Houston in Week 8 for 134 yards. He made a really nice catch on that touchdown this weekend. I think he has upside, but, I don't want to play him against the Vikings or the Jags in Weeks 15 and 16. And I don't feel confident enough to play him in Week 14, so there's really no need to pick him up in my mind. Same with Stills.
Yeah, I don't like their schedule at all. No, New England, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Buffalo. If you play in Week 15 or 17, never start the quarterbacks versus Buffalo and wide receivers. Is just it's useless. So it's not good. But I don't know. I feel like DeVante Parker, Kenneth Dixon, Christian Michael, Ladarius Green. These are all dudes I can't take anymore. I'm out. I know they have spark scores and all that. It just hasn't worked out. That was his first touchdown since what, like a year and a half ago? It's a long time. And he's been on the field. He's
going to be one of these guys that trolls us next year. Nobody is going to draft him, and he's going to just break out. Just watch it.
Hopefully the Dolphins, I don't think the Dolphins are picking up an option, so I'm pretty sure that he's a free agent.
Where's he going to go? Oh, put him in Cleveland.
Yeah, with Baker. I'd take him. I'd draft him.
That would be fun. Would you'd draft him there?
I would draft him, yeah, 100%.
I love Baker Mayfield.
Oh, he's awesome. He had a rough game, but man, he is going to be so good. I feel like we talk about that too much. Is that true, Tags?
That we talk about Baker too much?
Is there such a thing?
No, because people are going to come back and they're going to be like, yeah, Tags and Bobby did talk about him being like a future, like one of the elites in the NFL, because he's going to be.
Yeah, like when we told everyone to draft James Conner well before the Le'Veon Bell news and pick up Spencer Ware 5 weeks early.
I don't want to get into the whole I told you so bit, but I want to say that Baker Mayfield is going to be a star in this league. I'm sticking by that.
But how could he not be?
Yeah,
no one disagrees with that. That's like not even a hot take. That's like a minimal take.
People disagreed with me before the season 100%. Like he was not the number one quarterback in dynasty formats. I've had him top 12 dynasty quarterback since he walked into the league. Nobody was willing to do that.
Oh, well, that's ridiculous. He's the most accurate college football player in modern times.
Yeah, but he's too short. He's Johnny Manziel reincarnated.
Oh, gosh. So's Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. Just dumb.
Dude, you got to learn to hit the mute button on Twitter, Tags. I don't have those people talking to me anymore.
When you write a lot about the draft like I did, like I wrote so many different profiles on the draft this year and covered it, and like people told me that I was dumb for having Mayfield number one.
You're like slaving for these people to give them so much information and they're mad at you, man.
Well, no. It was more like how dare you mock Mayfield to the Browns? They're not taking that kid. Okay, like then people were saying he was going to fall to the end of the first round.
I know people already. I thought he was the number one quarterback coming out of the league, and I put Rosen as number 2, and I got a lot of flack for that too. I know what you're saying, yeah. And then people were like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Sam Darnold and Josh Allen? No, like you're so stupid."
He was going to be number 1.
Yeah. Do you watch football?
We need to have you on just to mock people.
But I remember I was like, no, to me, like they're by far the best because Mayfield was the most accurate and Rosen had like the most skills. Like he wasn't elite at anything, but he was really, really good at all of it. And so in my opinion, he was the most NFL ready. Now he went to the Arizona Cardinals and it's been a little bit of a rough ride. Although I like what Byron Leftwich is doing there. If you want to talk about dynasty possibilities, certainly their win that fired Mike McCarthy on Sunday was pretty intense.
That was everyone should be so happy about that. Like Aaron Rodgers is going to break record next year.
He's going to buy actually like Byron Leftwich like a big bottle of champagne or something and be like, thank you.
Yeah, for real. Can you imagine if Byron Leftwich went over to Green Bay to be their coach? That would be cool.
I think there's going to be a big name that's willing to go there. I think people would be willing to leave jobs to go there.
Anybody, yeah.
Oh,
like seriously, maybe Nick Saban will do it.
I don't know. I don't know if you want Saban, to be honest. Like, it's just it's a different thing in the NFL. I don't know. I think Josh McDaniels is going to be able to pick his job between the Browns and the Packers.
He doesn't deserve jack.
I'm not saying he does. I
like Josh McDaniels. You guys don't?
Why? How?
Because Bill trusts him.
Are you out of your mind? You know what it is? People forget how terrible he was with the Broncos. He was horrible. Also, he cheated with the Broncos, which is ultimately why he got fired. He did Spygate Part 2. People don't remember that.
You mean he cheated by drafting Tim Tebow?
No, he videotaped again.
I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, people forget how bad he was with the Broncos and how many times he got hurt. And remember, like the second he got there, he ticked off Jay Cutler. He traded away Brandon Marshall. He was he went in like a wrecking ball. He blew up the team. And then everyone was ticked off at him. He was cheating. He was a horrible coach, terrible at play calling as well, by the way, which was hilarious because he was doing such a good job in New England. But in New England, he has a very stern hand on him. Like, Bill Belichick is still running that show. Okay, that's, the idea that he's all of a sudden this like master is just not true because we saw it at the Broncos. He came in and he was just disastrous. Then he screws over the Colts in a way that I can't even believe. And by the way, the Colts being as good as they are right now, even though they stunk on Sunday, it was crazy, but good because he is a nightmare. I can't believe another team would give him a chance. He is disloyal. He is dishonest. He is a cheater. He is a horrible person. He's a horrible coach. And I could go on and on and on. And people are going to give him another chance. I can't believe that. That is unbelievable to me after what he did to the Colts last year.
Speaking of the Patriots cheating, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right, that Bill Belichick's the one that released this Kareem Hunt video.
No. And you know what? Listen, I'm not even going to go into what the Patriots do. I'm saying Josh McDaniels himself, the human, not even the Patriots, because I know Patriots fans are going to come out and be like, Brandon, you're the worst person that's ever lived. That's fine. I'm saying Josh McDaniels as a Bronco was terrible. And people forget how bad he was because it was a few years ago and he like went with his tail between his legs back to New England, and he's been obviously, you know, winning championships and doing things with them since. But he went in and blew up a team, and unless you're a Broncos fan, you don't remember that. And I'm sorry, what he did to the Colts, I'm still not over it. Oof.
Just to clear it up so my Twitter's not exploding by Patriots fans, I don't actually think Bill Belichick is the one who released the tape, so forget it. It was a joke, guys, okay? Let's go quarterbacks. Obviously, if Lamar Jackson's there, he's the top pickup. They have another great matchup this week against Kansas City. Other than that, though, Tags, who are you going with?
Ugh, it is ugly, man. It is such an ugly week to stream quarterbacks if you can't get Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's the easiest one for me. Like, I'm going to have him as like a low-end QB1 this week against KC. That passing defense is better than actually people think. They've struggled the last 2 weeks, but their run defense is just brutal, like, and terrible. And that's like, Lamar Jackson's an extension of the run game. So, but Case Keenum at San Francisco, I'm going to throw up as I say it. Like, Case Keenum should have had a good streaming day this past week against Cincinnati, but he didn't. He was 121 yards and a touchdown. Case Keenum just makes me sick. But honestly, when you're looking at the streaming matchups, him at San Francisco, I mean, dare I say Josh Rosen versus Detroit?
Don't do that. You're going to start Josh Rosen in the fantasy playoffs?
I don't want, that's what I'm saying, but I'm talking about the matchups you have in front of you. People that are under 40% owned.
I'd rather play Josh Allen than Josh Rosen, and it is not even close.
Josh Allen's my number one streamer. I put him above Lamar Jackson this week.
Whoa!
Hot.
Why wouldn't you? He scored 26 points in week 12, 30 points in week 13. He's facing the New York Jets. Lamar Jackson scored 16 points in 2 of his 3 games. The other game he went over 20, but that's it. It's not like he's been a number one dude. He hasn't. Josh Allen has.
That's fair. Just don't watch the game.
Don't watch it. I've told you that before. The same thing with Zay Jones. I mean, listen, is it ugly? Absolutely. It's disgusting. But he's playing the Jets. I don't understand. Back-to-back games of over 26 fantasy points and then going up against the Jets. I don't know how he's not the number one streamer this week.
Josh Allen has been terrible when throwing the ball. It's kind of like, but the thing is, you know, Brandon, you make a good point. It's like something that I haven't obviously done the primer yet for this week, but Josh Allen running the ball as much as he is, like, they just did, by the way, they did just lose their center for the year. I think they put him on IR, which is going to hurt a little bit. But Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the ball well either. You know, they're going against Kansas City, a bad run defense. Josh Allen's going against a bad defense in New York. The Jets have been terrible against the run as of late. So you make a good point. And I cannot believe that I'm going to be debating putting Josh Allen as a top 12 quarterback for the fantasy playoffs because
it's like Blake Bortles last year winning people championships.
I've watched him play football and I don't like it.
No, I don't either.
And his game should have been bigger. His game should have been bigger because Charles Clay dropped that end zone, that final throw. He literally dropped it in the end zone. That's on Charles Clay. He should have had another 50 yards and a touchdown on his stats.
Absolutely. This is like when you have, I mean, I don't know about anyone else out there, but I have won many a fantasy championship on the back of Blake Bortles. Back in the day, he was the perfect fantasy playoff quarterback. You just don't watch the games.
I won mine last year with Blake Bortles, yeah. You talk about that strategy of picking people up that your opponent might want. My opponent picked up 5 streaming quarterbacks because he had more money than me, and I had to roll out Blake Bortles, and he won it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I just think Josh Allen may be the Blake Bortles of this year, that you don't watch the game, but if you're desperate, he has. It's hard to deny what he's done in the last 2 games, and it's been a lot on his feet. But we're all talking about Lamar Jackson like it's an easy peasy must play, and I don't know why he's better than Josh Allen right now. Why?
That's a good question. By the way, I found, according to Stats LLC, Tom Brady averages a poor throw every 16.9 pass attempts, which is the 5th highest rate in the NFL, but Josh Allen is one that has more. So he's not worse than Josh Allen, but he is not doing very good.
This goes back to, I think, also like what we learned this year. Late round quarterback is so clearly the move, and every year we have to fight people about this, but you know, it's irrational how little of an advantage you get even if you have the top dude, just because so many quarterbacks score over 20 fantasy points now every game. So it doesn't give you that advantage anyway, and then the dudes that we thought were the guys are not scoring points. So Who cares? I mean, it's like, I waited until the rounds before kicker, defense, whatever, at the very end there. And I got Matt Ryan, who, obviously stunk lately, but was getting like 30 points a game for the middle here. And then someone dropped Russell Wilson in almost all of my leagues, and I picked him up. So now it's Russell Wilson time.
Mm-hmm. I remember when people were asking me if they should drop Russell Wilson. I'm like, no, he always starts slow. Seriously. Like, don't draft Russell Wilson. Just wait until he sucks and people will drop him.
Yeah. So it's seriously, it's my strategy every year. Or I take Phillip Rivers at the beginning and then Russell Wilson at the end.
This has kind of gone off the rails, but I get these questions all the time. Who would you rather pick up, this guy or that guy, in an STD league?
A what?
Like, can we just write out standard instead of putting STD?
Oh, stop the STD thing.
Also,
I was like, what the hell happened just now?
It should be non-PPR because most leagues it's not standard anymore to not have some sort of PPR. So I would just say non-PPR because now if you sign up for a league like on ESPN, the standard is PPR.
So Brandon, you don't play in an STD league?
I play in a non-PPR, yes. And to be honest with you, I actually prefer it, and I know I'm alone on that. I think it's much more accurate, and it completely changed the game, actually.
PPR?
Non-PPR.
Oh.
I'm with you, Brandon.
No, I mean, it's really cool, actually. I actually like kind of OG things. Like, I really like,
You guys in Sealy can all team up together and have your STD league, and I will have my PPR league.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to, tell everyone, don't let my husband listen to this. He's like, you're in a what league? No. No, but I think full point PPR and PPR bonuses and things like that can really overinflate certain players, and
it can, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm in my husband's league, which he's killing it in, has so many bonuses and so much inflation.
I hate those stupid bonuses.
Those are dumb. Those are.
Oh my gosh. And it's like, sometimes a player will play will get like 65, 70 points in a game.
They do that just to have higher point totals. That's all. It's like the people that watch baseball just to see home runs. Like, seriously, that's the type of thing that is, because like the reason I like PPR, and let me explain this for everybody who's listening, is because I think it's more predictive. And when I say more predictive, I can more accurately predict someone to catch 6 balls for 70 yards than I can a player to catch a 70-yard touchdown. And that's why I don't believe in the bonuses for big plays. They're unpredictable. I don't believe in a lot of different things when you talk about those points per completion. That stuff is, I mean, that's better than the big play bonuses, but seriously, I just want a game that's as skillful as possible, and standard is harder to predict. Is there going to be BS in PPR leagues where it's like, oh, this guy did his job, he caught a ball that went for 2 yards, he gets 1.2 points. Yes, he did. Yes, the offense was designed to go to him on that play. Whatever the case is, there's so much more crap in standard leagues where it's like, you can't predict a long touchdown. You can't do that any given week. So I just prefer PPR because I think it's more predictive.
Okay, guys, let's go even uglier to tight end streamers. Brandon, who do you like? Who do you dislike the least?
Who do you dislike the least?
Oh, man. Can I say Lacoste?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I guess you can, but you can't, I don't know, you can't really take my guy. You have to come up with your own. Go even further down than Lacoste.
I mean, I don't know if you can. I think that in terms of what you need to do at this position is, obviously you want to look at, who's available on waivers and who isn't, which is, the obvious thing to say here. But then what you do is you look at the injuries at the other wide receivers, and we won't know until the end. I know this is like a very lame answer here, but this is honestly how I stream people, because by the way, Lacoste had 0 catches last week. So he would be a little risky, although he's going up against San Francisco, so it's not super risky.
And it was against Cincinnati too, so that's concerning.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, but David Njoku is a perfect example of why me, right? He went down to 3 catches for 8 yards. So none of them are good. And I think that's really important. So what I would do is I would look and see if there's an injury to a wide receiver later in the week that's late. Then what I would do is pick up that guy. My favorite probably, to be honest with you, is going to be still Jonnu Smith, who is, available in about 25% of leagues. So he's probably the guy. And then I would also say Gerald Everett is a possible play, just because he's on such a good offense that there's a possibility that he'll be in the end zone. Everyone talks about how touchdowns are fluky and you shouldn't care about them, et cetera, et cetera. True, but tight ends are fluky. And if they don't score a touchdown, they usually don't score points if they're a streamer.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about guys who are going to get 2 or 3 targets in a game. So you need a touchdown. It's probably not going to be Lacoste. I think Everett has a better chance of scoring a touchdown. Maybe even Dan Arnold against Tampa Bay.
I know. I was about to say, you guys have missed it. He's the top streamer, Dan Arnold. So Dan Arnold is actually over the last 4 games, he's seen 13 targets. He's totaled 115 yards and a touchdown, while Ben Watson has been seeing declining snaps. He's seeing just 4 targets and 21 yards in those games. So he's like legitimately faded into nothing. Like Ben Watson should not be owned in fantasy leagues. Dan Arnold against Tampa Bay.
I'm drafting Dan Arnold everywhere next year. He's good. He's really athletic.
Tampa Bay they've played 12 games. 9 of the 12 starting tight ends have finished as top 12 options against them. And one of them who didn't was Greg Olsen last week, who left the game hurt. So,
but why would you pick? I mean, so here's the thing, though. He's only had more than 3 targets in 1 game all season. You'd have him over Jonnu Smith?
I can say the same thing about, well, I can say a lot about Jonnu Smith, but he's sharing it. He's in a timeshare now. Jonnu Smith is. He's sharing time with Anthony Ferkser. He's sharing time there. So there's that. And then Gerald Everett, he never sees more than 3 targets, like ever. And like, honestly, he hasn't.
Jonnu Smith has more than 3 targets in 1 game this season too. I just looked.
Oh, sorry. Really? Oh gosh. Yeah. I was like, but I felt like he caught almost all of them. The thing is though, right? And he had a touchdown in 3 straight games.
And Arnold's been good with his targets too. So that's the thing with me is like, I'd rather take Arnold part of New Orleans in a great matchup against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is legitimately probably the highest floor matchup of any tight end. There's been one tight end who has finished the game healthy against them, who has finished outside the top 15, and that was CJ Uzomah in a week where he saw 4 targets, didn't catch any of them. So, like I'm saying, tight end's ugly. I'm not saying that Dan Arnold is a guaranteed thing, but I think he's the best option of the bunch.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting. So I mean, yeah, sure.
He's hardly a tight end too. He plays some wide receiver. Okay, guys, let's go DST, and then we'll go to the Dynasty question here at the end. So for DST, top streamer of the week, Brandon, why don't you go first for us?
All right, so my top streamer of the week is going to be the Tennessee Titans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's Thursday Night Football. Nobody likes that, but to me, that's just an easy call. So I don't even know how you put anyone above them, to be frank.
They should already be picked up. I don't know what they're doing on the waivers. 53% of leagues.
Unbelievable, you guys. Half the leagues they're available, and I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah, played the Jets last week. Like, what were you guys doing?
Yeah, and the other team that I would target is the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. So I like them as well, and that you can get them in 70% of leagues. So to me, those are just easy pickings, and go for it.
I like Washington too. I mean, they've been shutting everyone down this season. We've got 32 sacks as well. They go up against the Giants and Eli Manning. It's a guaranteed interception.
I don't know, man. The one I wanted to mention is I like the Titans. I like the Bills. The Cardinals are an option too. They're going to be at home. They've been a relatively tough defense. The only guy who put some yards up on against them through the air was Phillip Rivers, who should be in the conversation for MVP. Stafford has been sacked a lot as of late. I think it's 26 over the last 6 weeks. He's been intercepted 6 times. He's missing, obviously, a couple of his big targets. The tight end position is non-existent. Kenny Golladay is going to see a lot of Patrick Peterson. I just think it's LeGarrette Blount will probably get his in terms of scoring wise, but the Cardinals have racked up 28 sacks in their last 8 games, and with Stafford's offensive line not protecting him as well as they used to, I do believe that they give you a high floor at home this week.
And I don't want to interrupt, but I do have one that's surprisingly available in most leagues. Jacksonville at Tennessee. The Jacksonville defense is 40% available right now, and Tennessee is allowing fantasy points like it's their job. So, in terms of the sacks, that's up, obviously interceptions. Marcus Mariota, woof.
Yeah, the fantasy numbers look decent. I think in 3 of the last 4 games he has 20 plus fantasy points. But if you watch him play, I mean, there's so much left on the field with him. Like there was a few easy throws he missed this week, but he is running the ball again. But yeah, I agree with you, Jacksonville.
Don't you know, Tex? He's the greatest.
No,
haven't you heard from Titans fans?
I don't want to talk to Titans fans about this.
But I mean, Jacksonville killed it against Indianapolis, so I think that they could do very well against Tennessee as well.
Okay, guys, let's round out the show by answering this question, and it is from Fantasy D Jack. He wants to know, for Dynasty players who are out of playoff contention, who are some low-stock wide receivers and running backs you'd recommend buying who you could see becoming major fantasy contributors next season? So I'm assuming this isn't just like a keepers league where you keep 3 or 4. I don't think there's really anyone. Maybe Darius Geis, who would be drafted in the first 4 rounds. I wouldn't draft Hunter Henry that high. But for dynasty leagues where you keep everyone, so somebody who you think is going to be draft worthy next year that's out there on the waiver wire, Tags, who are you going with?
So me personally, if you want to go deep, I mean, I thought maybe more like a team that was out of contention that can trade for a player that stock is low. I think Christian Kirk is someone that I would attack because Josh Rosen and him have shown a connection. Larry Fitzgerald's going to be gone. Kirk is clearly going to take over that slot role, and I think he'll be a big part of that offense. But, going further down, I mean, if you're talking about someone that's available maybe on the waiver wire, I think John Kelly is someone that I would stash. You talk about that Rams offense and how they operate through Todd Gurley. Yes, they have Malcolm Brown behind him on the roster. He's more of a banger, while John Kelly is more of a 3-down back who, some people they said that he compared to Alvin Kamara. I compared John Kelly to more of like a Duke Johnson type. And that's obviously very, very talented, even though Duke Johnson doesn't get touches every single week. But, those are them. And lastly, I will mention the Packers wide receivers. So in Dynasty, I've made a living off of this in Dynasty leagues. Attach wide receivers in your bench to elite quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is not going anywhere. So therefore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, people are down on him right now. Snatch him up. Equinemius St. Brown, snatch him up. And then, even if you want to go deeper, Jamon Moore, he's someone that he hasn't played really this year, but he is an interesting stash because he was considered a developmental receiver anyways. So, Jake Kumaro, attach players to elite quarterbacks and it'll work out. Otherwise, you just cut these guys. That's fine. If they're let go, who cares? You didn't spend anything on them, but you just stash them on their bench in case they turn into something.
I always look to IR if you're in a full dynasty league, right? So I'm not talking about like slate keepers. I'm talking about full dynasty. Prior to injury, even playing through injury, Paul Richardson was on the field the most out of any other player on the team other than Alex Smith prior to injury. So Paul Richardson was hurt from the beginning of the season through the whole time, certainly did not live up to the hype, but they had him on the field with Josh Doctson the entire game, every time. It was unbelievable. So I think that he's someone that you can get basically for free. Okay. No one cares about him whatsoever, but he was very relevant when it came to time with Russell Wilson, obviously. Now we're worried about the quarterback situation there in Washington, obviously, and that's a little dicey, but he's someone you can get for free. So to me, that's a different world. Jack Doyle, talk about double-digit targets all the time. He's on IR. People are like, it's Eric Ebron. But if you look at the usage, when he was there, they targeted him like crazy. He and Andrew Luck are connected. I'm very interested in him. Tight end position is trash. So if I am in a full-point PPR league, he has such a high floor. To me, he's an easy target. And believe it or not, I know it sounds crazy, but I think the Jets really like Quincy Enunwa, and they're already working on that deal, and I think you can get him for almost nothing. Again, I'm talking about people you can get for cheap because, you can trade big for like these big guys, but these like super duper cheap guys, those are probably the ones that I'm targeting the most. And this is also the time when you get your handcuffs. So if you, let's say, of course, like the Malcolm Brown, but you're right with John Kelly. I really like John Kelly. I had him for a big part. So you got to do that. This is the time when you maybe get Nyheim Hines behind Marlon Mack. This is the time when you go and get those like guys. And again, they're basically free. I'm okay with free if I'm not going to play them right away. So, and again, these are deep dynasty leagues. These aren't obviously people that I think you should start right away. And as I said earlier in the show, to me, Michael Gallup as a wide receiver 2 for Dallas next season, I think he could end up being a wide receiver 2 and or 3 all season next year. I think they're going to get him involved.
I think Gallup's a good one. I like to look at running backs because I don't think you really see wide receivers jump forward that much. If they're not very good on one team, they're probably not going to be very good on another team. Now, we've seen examples where that's not the case. It's just not as predictable. So I like to go for these backup running backs who you don't know what's going to happen. There's 3 different scenarios here, okay? That I like to fish for. Number 1 is with the Dolphins. Frank Gore is probably going to retire. I know that everyone says it's never going to happen, but let's be honest, it's going to happen eventually. And when it does, for whatever reason, they don't love Kenyon Drake as a 3-down back. They drafted Kalen Ballage where they did because they believe in his athleticism. I think there's a chance we've got a starting running back here with a lot of talent. I don't think he's a great football player, but if you get a starting running back for free right now, you're going to be happy with yourself. Another one that I like to look at is players with problems off the field. I'm not saying Ezekiel Elliott is a problem child, but we have seen stuff from him in the past. Let's just say he goes out and gets suspended again. If that happens, Rod Smith could be a very good starting running back in the NFL. Now, yeah, the chances of that are slim. I'm not banking on anyone getting suspended, but if you're going to, Rod Smith is someone to own. And then the other situation is what we saw with Jerick McKinnon. He's a backup running back for another team. There wasn't a route for him to get touches in Minnesota. They had Latavius Murray. They had Dalvin Cook. He was always the number 3. And then he went and signed with another team. So I'm looking for players like that. No one really comes to mind right now. Tex, do you have anyone like that on your mind?
One player that I would say that a lot of people have given up on is Ronald Jones. I mean, he was a high second-round draft pick. I like, no matter what you think and no matter what you saw this preseason, I don't care. He's a running back that's going to have a starting role next year. Like, Peyton Barber's not the dude. They're probably going to have a new offense there, but they have so much talent on offense. He's a starting running back in a high-powered offense. So they're going to build that offensive line. They have to, and that is only going to help matters. So I think Ronald Jones is an awesome guy to target if you guys still have trades or if someone dropped him for whatever reason. I think Ronald Jones is going to have a path to, potentially 18 plus touches a game next year.
And what if Denver trades away Royce Freeman?
Oh, I love Royce Freeman.
This is so interesting because I said this actually at the beginning of the season when people were like, no, Philip Lindsay, it's not going to work out. And I was like, no, Philip Lindsay's playing like lights out. But here's the deal. Royce Freeman actually didn't lose that job. Yeah, he got hurt a little bit and it opened some doors. But it's just that Philip Lindsay is playing out of his mind. But it's not like Royce Freeman's not playing good football. He's still playing really good football. If he was on another team, he'd be a running back too right now, easy. But he just cannot outperform what Philip Lindsay's doing, and that almost no one can, right? Okay, and obviously this week Philip Lindsay was completely out of his mind. So I think that, right now they did trade away Demaryius Thomas. They're actually on the block, even though they're still in playoff contention. Very interesting stuff going on. I wouldn't be surprised if they made some moves in the offseason. It'd be great if Royce Freeman could find another team, but certainly if something were to happen to Philip Lindsay, Royce Freeman is an easy plug and play, you guys. Very good athlete. He was not the issue. It's just that Philip Lindsay was so good.
Yeah, he's definitely a beast. Any other names, Tags?
No, that's the ones I came up with for the show. I know it's not a Dynasty show. We'll be talking about this throughout the offseason, though, for sure.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys, that's all for today's show. Brandon, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thanks to the sponsor of today's show, Pristine Auction. That's Pristine. Don't forget to check them out. They've got everything out there for sports fans. You'll find something for your cave that you absolutely love. And for a good, affordable price, everything's guaranteed authentic from the most trusted sources. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.